Hello and welcome, indeed a very warm welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, the UK's first woman Muslim cabinet minister, actor John Hannah, and we hear from the IMF about the Greek bailout plan. Is it going to work? But first, the biggest story of this week is, of course, Thailand, where a 2-month protest by red-shirted supporters of former Prime Minister Thaksin was broken up this week by the army amid shooting, bloodshed and fires. So has the government won? What did the red shirts really want? To find out, I'm joined from Bangkok now by Mr. Thaksin's former Deputy Prime Minister, Chaturon Chaiseng. Welcome, good to have you with us. Let me begin by asking the protesters in general. The protesters have surrendered this week. Did they get what they wanted or nothing of what they wanted?
We don't know exactly if the protesters got what they want, because their only demand is the Prime Minister dissolve the House as soon as possible. And then the government proposed after some time that the Prime Minister will dissolve the House in about 4 months from now, and there'll be a fresh election 2 months after that. But since the protest ended after the suppression, we don't know if the government still want to dissolve the House as it promised. And now we heard today that some of the coalition parties' leader were saying that the Prime Minister might not want to dissolve the House as he promised earlier. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen to the dissolution date. But the red shirt movement, the protesters, have gained what they have tried in explaining to people what the problem of this country is, how to solve this problem, why there needs to be an election as soon as possible.
And
but the result, the real result, the consequence, we don't know.
And in terms of the situation now with the red shirts, is Mr. Thaksin financing the red shirts protests? Is he behind them, in charge of them in a sort of way?
I don't know exactly if he spent some money on this rally or how much he's done. But this protest has been raising funds all along. A lot of people donated a lot of money to the protest. It is understandable that people will believe that Mr. Thaksin financed to some extent to the protest. He is a very close ally with the protest. He is not one of the leaders, but he is very important in this movement because people believe that a lot of things happen to him. It's exactly the same as a lot of things happen to the elected government and elected prime minister, and people were not happy with what happened to him because they are not happy with what happened to an elected prime minister. And so the movement for democracy and the movement that is supported by Mr. Thaksin happen to be about the same.
I see. And so your sympathy, and as you were talking there, your sympathy at the moment is more with the red shirts than the yellow shirts.
Of course. My sympathy is with the red shirt because their ideology, their demand is democratic. They demand for democracy and justice and the development of this country, which is different from the yellow shirt who were mobilizing against the elected government and even for the coup to take place. So it's very easy for one who loves democracy to decide which side you should be working with or you should have sympathy for.
Who will be fighting this election in 4 months' time? How many leaders, how many people from the red shirts and the yellow shirts and the government, how many people will fight this election?
As I said earlier, that we don't know exactly what will be the election date. Will it take 6 months or 9 months or even a year or a year and 1 year and 9 months from now? But in the election, it will be the members of the political parties that will run in the election. I believe that very few leaders from the red shirt movement will run in the election. Very few of them will run in the election. They are people who want to struggle for democracy, but they prefer the street politics because they feel that they themselves cannot run in the election, or they are deprived of the rights to the political rights, and they believe that in Thai politics there needs to be some kind of movement by people in parallel with the movement in the parliament. So I believe that very few people in the red shirt will run in the election. The Pheu Thai party, which is the opposition, will be competing against the Democrats party, the present government party. If the party still survive the case in the Constitution Court, a lot of people believe that the Democrats party might be disbanded very soon. But if they survive, they will be competing with the opposition party. The yellow shirts themselves will not run in the election either, but they already formed a party called New Politics Party. That party will run in the election. I don't see potential of that party because the party is still very new and the members are still with a very small number so far.
Thank you very much for that very clear statement. We appreciate it very much, and we look forward to talking to you again around the time of the election to see what exactly happens. Thank you, Mr. Chaturon. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sir David.
Well, we've got elections around the world there, with election coming up in Thailand, and in a moment I'll be talking to the UK's first ever Muslim cabinet minister. Just after this short break, we'll be talking to her then.